taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday show. This is the Augmented Reality podcast, presented by the Triple S League, your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. It's December 4th. Happy December to you all. And my name is Ash, and I'm here as always with Cybsidian. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. We have an interesting little news tidbit for today, and we're going to talk some other stuff.
Yeah. Of course, as always, lots to talk about. If you're listening live, please say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough, and it tells us on YouTube that you appreciate this content. If you're listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we're glad you're here as well. We appreciate your likes and follows. It does take us a day or two or three or sometimes 7 to get the podcast up to the audio platforms. So if you want the latest info sooner, please hit the link in the description and subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel, where in addition to the podcast, you'll find all sorts of fun and interesting gaming content. All right. Map reveal. So this has been buzzing around in the Cyberpunk 2077 community for the past couple of days. There was a new picture of the Cyberpunk 2077 Night City map that was revealed, and of course the community has just gone crazy trying to match this up with information we already have, trying to deduce every bit of information they can figure out about it. We're going to go through some of the pictures that have been posted. There's a massive thread on the CD Projekt Red's website, just basically devoted to this. It's actually a thread that goes back many months, actually back to 2018, talking about the map size, but it's the most recent posts are all about this new map and people doing all kinds of calculations and image overlays and all sorts of fun things. So we're going to dive all the way into that. A few other things to discuss, but we'll get to that later. So let's just dive into the Cyberpunk stuff. So this new map, it was released as part of the World of Cyberpunk 2077 book that's coming out from Dark Horse. It's a new lore book based around the game. It's being published by Dark Horse, and the map is actually on the cover of the book. So that's this image that you've probably seen floating around. I'm actually going to put it up on the screen here right now. Here's the full thing, not the cropped version I used for the thumbnail. Here's the full thing. And so this shows Night City. It says the World of Cyberpunk 2077 down there at the bottom. We see sort of an island area surrounded by water, a bunch of roads, those white lines, a few recognizable landmarks, and that circular area that almost looks like a targeting crosshair, sort of just above the middle and then, to the left. That is Corporate Plaza. Oh shoot, is that what it's called? I just watched Mad Queen's video on this, and she identified that. Mm-hmm. I think it's called the Corporate Plaza. So that's a very helpful landmark because that is a defined area in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But
now I should point out that we don't believe that this is the in-game map. There's some people who have been saying, "Oh, this is the in-game map." I'm like, I really don't think so. I don't even think this is the full map. If you look closely, some of the big roads, there's that big one off to the right there. It just ends. So I suspect that this is not. I suspect this is not a full map of the city. Obviously, I think that's really clear. I think this is a how do you want to call it? This is a district map. That's probably a good way of saying it. This is a district map of one of the districts of one of the or a particular area that doesn't even include everything on the map. And I see this a lot in like city planning and stuff where they have like, a section of a map, but some stuff is just not on it because it's a different district or it's a different neighborhood and it's not on the information that's contained within a particular thing. There, in some cases, like especially as far as like utilities and stuff goes, there's areas of cities that are segmented from other areas of the city. That's why you get weird brownouts sometimes. If you're looking at a big city that suffers from brownout, you'll notice that like sometimes it's a really weird splotchy area that's out it's not a full area. It's not demarked into like streets and lines and stuff like that. If the power grid goes down in one part of the city, it doesn't affect everything in a square block radius out from that one particular point. It can be quite fragmented. So that's just bear that in mind as you're looking at the map, because I don't want people to automatically assume that this is entirely what the whole city looks like, because if it does, it's pretty small. And
right. And there's more evidence.
yeah.
There is definitely more evidence that this is definitely a cropped version of the map. Some estimates have come in at this is about 60 to 80% of the entire map, but there are also things missing from here when you compare it to the Metro map that was, more recently updated. Like that area in the top right, there's supposed to be stuff there. Like there's Metro lines running there, and yet it's just this big green area. So it's interesting. It's almost like this is an early artist's rendition of the map, and it puzzles me, if that's the case, why they would put it on the cover of this book. By the way, Danny Boy asked, what's this book about? It's a lore book, and it is it's being published by Dark Horse, so and that's about all I know about it currently. But it's some kind of lore book to accompany Cyberpunk 2077. All right, so did you have anything else you wanted to say about it before we dive into some of the other images that people have been creating with this?
No, not really. Let's get on to what other people are saying, because again, it's like my draw on this is that obviously it's really cool, it's really awesome, but it's not showing us too much information because it's a partial map, and it's not the in-game map. This is like a I suspect this was like hand done, or like edited up just for this. I don't think it's an actual
this isn't going to be the graphic we're seeing in the game.
Yeah.
We've seen the map in the game. It's like this holographic 3D thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a
close representation.
This is a picture. This is a picture of Night City as it's going to be in Cyberpunk 2077. But you don't need to expect this to be, exactly accurate to what we're going to find in game. But at the same time, as other people have been demonstrating, it gets pretty darn close. Now, I wasn't aware of this, but apparently Night City is based on the real-world location of Morro Bay, California. And somebody took the book map, we'll call it, the book cover map, and overlaid it on top of a real map of Morro Bay. And I've got it up on the screen here, but I'm just going to zoom in on the book map a little bit there. So it actually fits the coastline there fairly well. But this is one person's
adaptation.
This is one person's sort of their theory of how the map sort of fits into everything. And I'm trying to fit this. There we go. And this is their speculation about how the districts are actually going to be distributed. Now, this was created by one of the moderators on the CD Projekt Red forum that's talking about this. So I'm assuming they know a little bit about what they're talking about. They're not involved in the development of the game necessarily, but they know their stuff enough to be, a moderator on that forum. And they put out another image where they did the same thing, but they overlaid sort of their own hand-drawn version of the Metro map on top of it. And this is where, it goes to show that there's stuff up in that top right corner there where there was nothing represented on the map. So, anyway, this definitely goes to show, like I said, that this is not a full version of the map. What's on the book cover, it's cropped and probably incomplete in a variety of ways. All right, and then we have people doing things like this. Now this may be a little bit difficult to decipher right off the bat, but this is the book cover map overlaid on top of a screenshot of the actual in-game map. So it goes to show that, you know, it is a fairly close representation of what, you know, we're going to
Yeah.
be seeing in game, but you see there is stuff cut off there, right?
Yeah.
So
No, I really like. I again have to really admire the effort that the community puts into this kind of stuff, and this is always the most fun time of a game release. It's like it's the most exciting time because everybody's going nuts on just the smallest little bit of stuff.
oh, it's great. I
And
love seeing this stuff. Yeah.
yeah, no, I remember way back to like before Fallout 4 came out, we were doing all the like looking at every little thing that we could, and it was the same then as this is now, and you know this is really good. Now I really like this interpretation that they did because this is just spot on, and you can clearly see that, and I think by doing that extrapolation, I think we do have that really huge area that we're going to be able to explore. Not all of it, unfortunately, due to the nature of the game, but enough that I think this is going to be quite the explorer's game, quite the explorer's game for sure, for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Then people are doing things like this, where they're taking the map, and this is actually, I love this image. This is pretty impressive what they've done here. But they've highlighted on the map where they think that V is standing with his car in this one screenshot, or this shot from the trailer, the 2018 trailer, and and then which of these segments of buildings they think are represented on which sections of the map. And this does line up. This does look like, this looks very plausible, actually, because I mean it does line up with that corporate plaza there that we talked about earlier, and like you do see it in the screenshot there, just a segment of it, and then the green highlighted area overlaps with that a little bit. Anyway, very cool. Like the amount the amount of work people are putting into this is just fantastic. I mean, I love this community for this reason. They're so passionate about every little thing here.
This is really awesome, and it really takes like a good head to be able to to look at a map from the top view and be able to zoom in and kind of extrapolate things, going, well, from this particular view, from this particular angle. People are doing this for the next Elder Scrolls game, from the one trailer, going, you're doing this flyby of the coastline, and they're like, there's a mountain here, there's a coastline here, there's a little bay over here, there's a little sunken ground thing you hear that can only be like one of two places in the entire world. And that shows you how much the game creators and the map creators, how much effort they put into stuff, because it is very unique, and you don't get a lot of the same stuff. Like other games, which I won't mention right now, a few years ago, put out a game where skylines were just copy pasted, horizons were just copy pasted, and you had this you had the same horizon in one place as you had in basically every other place. And that's really gross. I don't know why anybody would do that, but yeah, this goes to show that these creators are on the ball with this stuff, and that's I'm so happy for this stuff, because this is truly the really, really exciting moment of I can't wait to get my hands on this, because there's so much to this. And more than that, I can't wait until we get all of the expansions for this game, and a lot of these areas are fleshed out even more so than they already are. That, or new areas that are a little bit more fleshed out, and we'll see kind of and that's the other brilliant thing that CDPR does with their game is, in other games, they work on the DLC before launch, or they take stuff out of the existing game and put it in. What that does is it doesn't allow you to morph what the game is in response to the feedback from the players. And this is why I think, this is why they do such a good job, because they are taking that news, they are taking that information, and they are running with it in a correct and valuable way, I think. So yeah, because they'll be able to take Cyberpunk down the road and say, okay, what did players really enjoy? What did they want more? And then they'll be able to add that and change that as they go. So, that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, one of the big questions that people are trying to figure out using this map is how exactly big? No, how big exactly is Night City
Hmm.
going to be in Cyberpunk 2077? So they're doing things like this. Trying they're they're trying to figure out the exact route that V took in the gameplay demo and how long it took and and what speed they were traveling based on the in-game video footage that we saw, and so that tells you sort of the distances that we're playing with here, and so then they're doing all of these calculations and trying to figure out exactly how big the map is. Now, as I said, the map that's on the cover of the book is not the complete map, but I mean it kind of gives us a rough idea. Now, this is where my brain stops working, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, all right, it's gonna be big.
Hmm.
But yeah, so there's some people that are really, really working hard to try and figure this out. And of course, it's stirred up the whole controversy again about, oh, why is the map going to be smaller than the Witcher 3's map?
It's because they have limitation, technological limitation. People, it's there. We all hate it, of course, but it's only there for a
Well,
temporary
and I
period.
don't even know if it's a technical limitation. Bigger, like in terms of geographic area, does not mean better in terms of gameplay and exploration and stuff. Witcher 3 was fantastic. There was lots of
Yeah,
times where
I
you're just
mean,
running across wilderness, though.
like in most cities, you don't want to go wandering around all of the like the whole area of the city. There's a whole districts and areas that you just don't really need to be in, like, a lot of residential stuff. I've heard that running around in a residential area, exploring buildings and checking out yards and stuff, can actually get you into legal hot water. I don't know if this is true. I've just heard this is a random story from somebody
Hmm.
else that, you know, yeah.
Why don't you try it?
So
Try it and find out what happens.
yeah, I'm sure that won't end poorly at all.
Do it for science. But yeah,
Uh,
like having a well designed, having a well designed area with lots of stuff to explore is better than having just a large area with nothing in it. Like hands down. Or a large area of just sort of copy pasted buildings or procedurally generated stuff
mhm.
where you see, yeah. And when they're talking about handcrafting the areas, like they don't want you to feel like you're walking through the same place over and over and over again. They're designing this world so that each part of it feels unique and different. Each district's going to have a different style to it, like these long histories, different architectural styles, different cultural things going on. And the buildings, I mean, you walk through a building and every apartment looks the same or has the same layout. Well, that's fairly realistic. But at the same time, like they it's not going to be designed where you can necessarily go into every building and explore every apartment. But the amount of stuff you'll be able to explore, I believe, will exceed The Witcher 3. And so if you're talking about like actual walkable area, if you take into account the verticality, the massive buildings, the things layered on top of other things, I think that you're going to have a map that is ultimately bigger than The Witcher 3's.
Mhm.
And we've talked this to death before.
Yeah.
But it's going to
No.
be more compact in the sense as well, which is really good because I mean, a game where you could like navigate by landmarks would be fantastic. I mean, how often can you do that? You
Yeah,
know?
and that's something that I don't think The Witcher really had, is the ability to, like, to see so much on the screen as far as like different things other than, I mean, mountains, right? And that's the thing that you have in current day modern slash sci-fi games that you don't really have in, like, you know in older, like, fantasy based games where you're trudging through woods and forests half the time, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. But yeah, like I'm really, really close to the end of Jedi Fallen Order. And that game is built for exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the maps, the levels are so well designed, and the holo map that you use, once you've explored a whole bunch of areas on one planet, and it's really, the holo map can get really confusing when you're trying to navigate around. Personally, I love it. I love that whole sense of like, wait a minute, which way am I supposed to go? Am I looking at this thing, or am I looking at this other tunnel that's sort of underneath it, because it's all like transparent and there's other, you can see things through other things, and it gets a little confusing. Personally, I love it. I can imagine it being a little frustrating for some other people, but that's one area where I give that game super top marks, is just the exploration aspect of it, how well designed the levels are. But you look at it in terms of size, it's not that big. It's not that big, and compared to a lot of open world games like The Witcher or what this is going to be, Cyberpunk 2077. So yeah, I would say don't worry about the map size. We are not going to be disappointed by the amount of content in this game, the amount of stuff we can explore in this game. Plus, just going back to the first point, this is a partial map, and we don't know how far it extends beyond that. I mean, we know there's going to be areas outside of the city. There's the Badlands. How big are those going to be? We just don't know. And also, there's going to be the net, and possibly other areas that we haven't even conceived of. I mean, depending on what they do, with the brain dance and things like that, you might have other virtual areas to explore. So, I'm not worried, and I recommend nobody be worried about the size of the map. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's like just from an outward perspective, it is going to be, like, we already know that it is much bigger, just due to the immersion size. I should so the immersion size is like what we were saying earlier, where it's like you're taking the world that you have, and you're adding, and you're adding the player to it to see what they can see and see what they can interact with. And while that's pretty big, in some cases, like your roads, I've used this example a lot. We know that there's a lot of space as far as roads go, and that there's a lot of traversable space that roads go. And some devs refuse to take that into account, while others do. And other games, like they especially cityscape roads, or cityscapes where roads are such a big portion of the map, you actually divide it up, and it's like the city's like 20% road. Does that mean that 20% is a really immersive part? Well, no, not really, as far as like what most people consider generalized immersion, but it's certainly important for driving. And when you do that, a quick comparison from that over to the roads that you have in fantasy games, where it's like, first of all, they're never more than a single like wagon size, really. Few others are ever going to be that big, because it just looks weird and out of place. So, and most roads are going to be nothing more than a trail. So in this particular case, again, it's people have to kind of like change their perspective on how that works. And like I said, some devs they're really hard on it. And there's some at CDPR and at other places where it's like, well, no, we can't count roads in the size of a map. It's like, well, of course you can. You shouldn't, emphasize on it, or create additional roads just for the sake of that. But I mean, of course it's part of the map. Well, we can't calculate like second, third, fourth, fifth, 10, 20, and 30 levels of a building as part of a map either. And it's like, again, why can't you? Well, because it's not a square footage thing as far as like what it appears on the map. And so this has really been hung up on, and it's been kind of like, So yeah, no, I'm hoping that this translates well enough for most everybody, which I think it does, because I think everybody's really happy with it so far. So yeah. Oh yeah, and gamer notes, you have a great point there with Spider-Man, 100% too on that. Like that's just really on point as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got through that faster than I expected. Any other news or any other tidbits you'd like to share about Cyberpunk 2077? You have any inside baseball for us this week?
No, there's, like I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming. We're like basically, what is it? We're not too far away from the Game Awards now. So as that gets closer and closer and closer, you're going to start to see some more stuff. And again, it's like I'm not dishing on anything here. I'm just pointing out the really obvious stuff.
Right. Yeah, we're expecting to see something.
It may be a little dishing, but yeah, I mean, you're a person. Yeah, okay, yeah. We'll leave it at that because I don't want to get in trouble.
We are 5-ish months away from release now, and we have heard, it was reported publicly that they're ramping up their marketing efforts, so there's going to be lots of stuff coming soon. Between now and when we finally get our hands on this game, which is going to be fantastic. All right. You're listening to the Augmented Reality podcast. Love seeing the conversation in the live chat. If you do want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join the Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about and stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. You can also tell us what you'd like us to talk about, and that's going to factor into today's podcast quite a bit. There's been quite a number of posts about upcoming games and things you wanted to hear about that we're going to be discussing in the second half of the podcast here, so stay tuned for all of that. So yeah, click the link below to join, and be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. By the way, while you're down there in the description, you will see an affiliate link to Toink Toys, and recommend you check that out if you are looking for if you are in the market for gifts for the nerdy people in your life for Christmas or whatever. Even if that person is yourself, check out Toink Toys. They have got they've got fantastic toys, apparel, household items, collectibles for all of your favorite sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, movie, TV IPs. There's tons of stuff there. There's standalone items. They also have mystery boxes with a bunch of items mixed in, and it's not a mystery as in like they don't tell you what's in the box. No, on the website they actually tell you what is in the box. So, it's not like an EA style, it's not like a loot box is brought into real life. No, they'll tell you what's in it. But it'll certainly be a mystery to those, to the person that you're giving them to, and they'll definitely enjoy, what's in it. And a lot of them, there's great sales going on all the time. And also free shipping in the continental United States. And if you use the link in the description, you'll be supporting the channel as well. So thank you so much. If you decide to do that, thank you for Toink Toys for being a sponsor here. All right, bunch of game announcements, game leaks, and other things that we're going to get to in the second part of the podcast here. So Mario Maker 2 is getting a massive update tomorrow, and this just looks fantastic. Mario Maker 2 is basically taken the Mario community by storm. It was a fantastic second edition of this game, and there's an update tomorrow that is bringing in new enemies, new items, such as frozen blocks, enemies like Pokies and Spike, and every time they add, the thing is, like, the reason I want to talk about this, not because we have so much this isn't our typical content. We don't have a huge, Nintendo Mario player base, but the community around that game is just amazing. And if you're playing through levels, like, they find ways to make things interact that it's emergent gameplay cranked up to 11. Like, there's just so much cool stuff people have figured out how to make all these different items interact with one another to create just some super creative levels. And it does it on a scale that I don't think any game with a level editor has done in the past. Like, they've really just sort of shown us how it's done there. And so as soon as they add one or two additional things, well, it changes the whole meta behind the game, because there's all of a sudden there's just exponentially new ways to make things interact. But they're adding like a dozen new things. But the one thing I wanted to talk about, because this is just super fun, is they're adding a new power up in the Mario Super Mario 1 style of the game. It's limited to Super Mario 1 style levels. New power up, the Master Sword, and it turns Mario into Link, and not just a Link costume. You get Link's abilities. You get a sword, you get a shield, you get arrows you can shoot, and bombs.
Well, that sounds a little psychopathic. I mean, just generally speaking. I mean, Mario was okay when he was just bouncing around and jumping on things and occasionally shooting fireballs from his hand. But this is just like a whole new level of like, wow, that's messed up.
I cannot wait to see the crazy stuff, the crazy level types that people build around this, because they've just opened Pandora's box in terms of ways to interact with a Mario level. It's mind blowing. Yeah, I can't wait to. I'm a huge. I play Mario Maker 2 a ton. Like, it's my sort of casual. It's my kick back and relax game. Cannot wait to see the amazing things that people come up with this, and the creativity. I mean, we talk about player creativity all the time. We talk about modding. We talk about, the amazing things that people are able to, even just, what we were doing with the, what we were talking about with the Cyberpunk map, and the images people are creating, and the things that people are doing to try and just figure out what exactly this map is representing. The communities that surround these games just fascinate me. It's a great time to be a gamer for that reason. But yeah, this I wasn't going to mention this today because, yeah, like I said, it's not our typical topic. But I was like, they're putting Link in the game, like, that just changes everything. Like, it's a power up you get, and you get Link's abilities, and it just changes the whole game. So yeah, that's really cool. That is super cool. All right. On to other things. A couple of leaks that have come out recently. Is Rockstar possibly working on a game set in medieval times? Is that their next game? Well, it sounds like, according to a couple of leaks, that might be the case. Now, this is a case where you need to take this with a huge grain of salt. And by salt, we don't mean like being irritated and angry. That kind of that almost puts that turn of phrase in a when you tell somebody to take something with a grain of salt, it almost sounds,
Yeah, don't ever tell a leech this, because they'll be very insulted.
They'll be insulted, but telling somebody on the internet that now almost seems like you're telling them to be angry. No, means, be a little skeptical, of course. But yeah, so
this is far from like proven.
Yeah.
I know that they've been working on a new game, and that they have been working on something to change up their current lineup. But I would not really imagine that they're interested in just, shelving the their current lineup, especially, GTA. It's like, there's no way that they're shelving that, because first of all, it's really the only type of game that really kind of has that, or kind of offers that as a universe. And it is I think it's the highest grossing genre, or the highest grossing IP in the world. I think it is. I think it outpaces even Star Wars and some other stuff, because it truly is like this absolutely massive series. It's just prints money on the online version nonstop for some odd reason. And I would think that they would want to update that. That doesn't mean they can't, walk and shoot bubblegum at the same time. I suspect that they're working on more than one thing. And this is something especially that I think is probably what they're doing. So, so yeah, I would imagine that that's more or less what's going on here. But yeah, not positive either, because it is like, this is not been confirmed really, and we'll have to wait and see. But it'll be interesting if this is what they're doing,
Hmm.
because I would be very interested in seeing what their take on a medieval game might be, and why a medieval game instead of a fantasy game. I don't know that either, because like strictly medieval games that don't really have or incorporate magic into them, whilst they do have an audience, and certainly there's some that are very, very popular and very, very well done. Kingdom Come Deliverance is astounding and really, really awesome. Um, I don't know if they can pull off the same thing. Like if you don't enter magic into the thing, all you basically really have is just a lot of like politics and intrigue, and really, really, really terrible living circumstances. I don't know if you know this, but dentistry wasn't really a thing back in medieval times. Um, yeah, it was. It was not very fun for most people. So, just generally speaking, I'm a little. I would be a little surprised if it was strictly medieval versus like fantasy medieval. Fantasy medieval gives you an ability to do a lot of really cool stuff, and have a lot more depth in the world. But if they're going for realism, then I can see that, and I wouldn't put it past them either. I really wouldn't. I'm not saying for sure on any of this stuff, especially when it comes to them and doing the types of GTA stuff. It might be ridiculous and over the top, but I do think that they do have an ability to do something that's a little bit different. So
I was gonna say, because yeah, if there's one thing Rockstar's known for, it's realism.
yeah, well, it's one of these weird
They,
things. It's like they claim realism, and well, some people claim realism for them, but that's not the case. And it's a little ridiculous. Should they think that way?
yeah,
So yeah,
no. Anyway, so this part of the clue to this comes from a LinkedIn profile for one of the artists at Rockstar India, who the job responsibilities listed were to create modular environment pieces with organic finish, carefully following medieval architecture style. And now this profile, this line in the profile has since been removed, which is itself a little bit telling. But it should also be noted that Rockstar recently absorbed Dhruva Interactive in India, which is where this particular person worked. So there's a chance this job description, this job responsibilities line referred to some other project they were working on. But there was also a Reddit post from somebody who claims to know a source, and this is where, of course, you need to take it with a grain of salt. But they say there's a Reddit post stating that the source has revealed that Rockstar is developing an open world game with a medieval setting. Sword fighting and dueling will be a mechanic, aiming for release Q1 2021, and an announcement isn't that long away. So again, massive grain of salt. I'd be interesting to see what this is, if it is indeed true that this is what they're working on. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see on that. And again, I agree with double asterisks here. I hope that they improve the combat over most of their other games. I don't know. GTA 5, the combat was horrible, in my opinion.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think I can't think of a more overrated game. I know some people are going to hate me for that, but I really can't.
I mean, it's really fun if you like driving around creating havoc.
Mm-hmm.
The driving in it is really good. Driving is
No, and that's definitely fun, but it's just like it's all the other stuff that is attached to that game. It's like, yeah.
But I remember there was one mission where you have to try and beat your son in a bicycle race or something. I was like, are you serious? This is boring. Give me a race car. All right. One other leak. We had some images leaked for the Resident Evil 3 remake, which has been rumored for a while, but it appears that leaked. Well, the PlayStation Network was data mined, and these images came out of that. These appear to be leaked PlayStation covers for Resident Evil 3 remake. So that appears to actually be a thing. From Games Radar, there are those much rumored reports of a Resident Evil 3 remake in the works of Capcom have seem to have finally been confirmed with hard evidence. Recent data mines of the PlayStation Network have discovered what appear to be official covers for the upcoming survival horror game. These were released on Twitter. They reveal that Nemesis, the big bad from the original game from 1999, will be back in action alongside lead characters Jill Valentine and Carlos Oliveira, looking ready for combat against the backdrop of Raccoon City.
That was my first. That was the first Resident Evil game that I owned. I had played some of the others and I was like, wasn't super into it at the time. But then Nemesis came out, and I bought that because I thought it was interesting, and absolutely loved it. It's not my preferred style, but just it just hit at a perfect time of like having the aesthetics, having the intrigue, having like everything that it offered. I was like, hey, wow, this is actually really, really solid, and had a pretty good storyline as well. So
Awesome, right on.
yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I think out of all of them, I'm glad that they're doing this one because I think that fits into the fear genre when you have like this like person or thing or entity hunting you, and there's nothing you can do to like put it down permanently. You just have to keep on running until the city is kablooey. So sorry for spoiling a 20-year-old plot point, but yeah.
Also, the plot of every horror movie ever. But anyway. Yeah, and also, good news for you fans of Stalker, the game. Not, stalkers. But like the fans of Stalker, for the video game, and if you're looking forward to Stalker 2, this doesn't directly relate to that, but there was a post recently from Zach, who does PR at GSC Game World, who created Stalker. His message reads, "Just wanted to say hi for now, but we have a sweet surprise coming soon. Stay tuned."
I mean, I have not had much hope for this game in general, just due to the problems that they've had. But they're promising a cool announcement soon. Now, when I hear that for all of this stuff, like when I'm constantly hearing like, "Hey, new big announcement coming up soon," and we're this far away from the Game Awards, I keep thinking, okay, yeah, Game Awards. This is going to be something that's going to be showing up at Game Awards because it's this one. It's a whole bunch of others that have been teasing and putting out stuff quite constantly. So I think we're going to see a whole lot of announcement at the Game Awards, and I think this is probably going to be one of them.
Okay.
And I hope that they've got things sorted through. We'll see. But again, I'm like, if you're a super fan of the game, of the genre, you got to remember this has gone through so much change, and there's been a lot of alterations at the company. And they've said, "Oh, we're doing a new thing that's kind of like the canceled number 2, but now we're doing it different and better." Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, how much effort should I put in this? Unlike Square Enix, oh boy, that's a fun one. Because we're going to be talking about Babylon next, right?
Yeah, we can talk about that now. Babylon's Fall.
Yeah. So Babylon's Fall is, again, it's a Square Enix game, and they have this thing where I was joking with you earlier, where I'm like, oh great, they announced it again.
So it'll be here in like 10 years.
10 years, yeah, 10 years. This is what Square Enix does. They get an idea for a game, they immediately make a trailer and then put the trailer out, and then they get to work on making the game. I cannot stand this, and I know there's a lot of other people a lot of other gamers absolutely hate this as well, because it is so frustrating to see. I mean, they did it with the remake for Final Fantasy. They've done it with the Kingdom Hearts 3, where it's like, oh yeah, we're working on the game, and 10 years later, you're like, where is the game? Like, come on, guys, this is absolutely ludicrous. Like, they put out a trailer for Final Fantasy. I think like it's getting close to like 7 years ago now, and it's like, good lord. Like, what were you doing during this whole time? Oh, you didn't even start making the game when you did the announcement. Well, that's brilliant, because technology is not going to change in the next 7 years. Like, oh, it's so frustrating. And I feel so bad for all the people who are waiting for this stuff and they're excited for this stuff. And I mean, we've had that before, and there's nothing worse than seeing a project that's like, hey, there's going to be this cool project coming out, and you're like, yeah, I can't wait for it. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, 6 years in, we've canceled the thing. It's like, oh, like, why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? I think this is absolutely mental. So, just disappointing. Just disappointing. So, yeah.
Right. So you feel it's Babylon's Fall, though, specifically, is quite a long way off?
Yeah, so they announced it like what, year ago, and they announced it coming out for this year. Then turns out that they have like basically a skeleton crew working on it for the past like 12 months. So I really don't think we're going to get this game. I really, really, really don't think we're going to see this game. Certainly not in the next like year or two. Probably going to be another year or so after that. And I worry about if you do get it out earlier, it just means that there's not much to the game. And yeah, it's like, what's another one? It's like, yeah. No, I don't want to go on to the long list of them, but there's a couple where it's like, oh yeah, I remember 3 years ago watching that trailer. I remember 5 years ago watching that trailer. Is the game out yet? No. Okay. Well, I guess we're going back to waiting. And it's like that, not because they're like, not because they're, CDPR did that for when they were recruiting, right? They're like making this big announcement. Hey, we're working on this game. It's going to be great. And they ended up going back to the drawing board, just because they couldn't handle it at that particular point in time. So, yeah, I think, I think that.
Okay. However, there's going to be another Pathfinder game. If all goes according to plan, Studio Owlcat Games just recently raised $1 million in funding. Not raised, but they have acquired $1 million in funding from Gem Capital to work on the new Pathfinder game, Wrath of the Righteous.
And another one where, I mean, I really like the Pathfinder game. I've not finished it yet. I got pretty deep into it, and then stuff came in, and that's another game that I'm hoping to get to, because these are all great games, and I'm really happy with the Pathfinder. I'm really happy with the direction that they've gone, just generally speaking, and I can't wait to see this new one. But they've announced it now, and I worry that it's going to take I worry that it's going to take a while, that it's not going to be out for probably quite a few years. And if it does come out at the time that I'm thinking it's probably going to end up coming out, they're going to have a hell of a competition. And that sucks, because there's things that I really hate it when two amazing games of the same genre come out, which they normally, this type of game comes out once every 8 to 10 years. And I absolutely can't stand it when they both come out at the same time, because one's always going to overshadow the other one, and then the other one is not going to do very well because it's a very minute genre. And by the time you finally get around to it, everything looks so dated that it's like that, especially if they put in a lot of effort into that, you feel like there's not much, there's not much there to it, and that kind of sucks, and I do really hate seeing that. So
yeah, well, after the announcement, Alexander Mishulin, creative director at Owlcat, said, "We learned a lot from the launch of Pathfinder Kingmaker. Now we are making a lot of effort to make sure that the new game will be released far more polished. A lot of issues came from the fact that the player has a lot of choices in the game, and some of those choices especially ones that are set apart by 20 to 30 hours of gameplay, tend to interact in ways that we didn't predict. So, interesting statement. All right. What else? There's a bunch of other things to talk about here. Actually, let's go with it. In the chat, Ali Mahfouz is wondering about Mech Warrior 5.
I totally forgot to tell you that I really wanted to talk about this game today. So it is pretty awesome.
Okay.
From what I've been hearing and from what I've been seeing, they've had a beta out. It's been it's been really cool. It's been really awesome. I've been watching it. It's a multiplayer thing, but I think they've handled it really, really well, and I am really stoked, really stoked for to see like where they go with this, and I think this is something that can really relight the fuse. Like I really liked the MechWarrior game that came out, the BattleTech game that came out not too long ago. It was great. It's isometric. It's slow, very strategic. Really enjoy that turn-based type thing. Really love it. But just generally speaking, I have been wanting a new MechWarrior game for so long, and I saw this come out because like there's a bunch of games that have come out that have kind of done something similar, but they're all Twitch based. Like they're all like, oh, they're like you whip around faster than you'd ever be able to like whip around, and like in any kind of a machine, and you're pulling off moves and stuff. It's like I don't like that. It doesn't feel like a Mech Warrior game. What feels like a Mech Warrior game is when you're piloting a vehicle that's the size of a small town, and you just can't like, oh, get behind the hill and crouch. It's like no. It's like that's not what a Mech Warrior is there for. So I am stoked with this game. I've been seeing the news come out about it. I'm very excited for it. I'm really hoping to get into the beta. One of the betas coming up, and then I really want to show this thing off, because yeah, this is something that is looking 100% awesome. So, I'm so glad that this is coming out, because this is one of these games that I've been waiting for so long. And it'll be coming out. I think it comes out officially on the 10th, I want to say. So that's like a week from now. So I can't wait to get into this and show this off. Now, I am kind of annoyed that it's it's being released on Epic. It's kind of annoying, but I'll let everybody know kind of like where we kind of go from here, because this is something that I've been really excited for a while. I don't know if I'm going to boot it up on the Epic Store or not. So we'll see about that.
Okay. All right. What about Atomic Heart? Kalenko is wondering about Atomic Heart.
I think we're due for a new trailer sometime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one that I suspect we will see at the thing.
Game Awards. Yes.
Awards, yeah.
And the Game Awards, of course, happening. Wow, was it next week already?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, stay tuned for that. We will definitely be covering that, possibly restreaming that. We've just got to sort of finalize our plans for what we're doing there. But we'll definitely be doing coverage of the Game Awards. All right, let's see what else here. Outriders. There's another game that somebody in our Discord asked about. Outriders. Do we know anything about that one?
It's I haven't. I don't think there's been any like hard gameplay shown off for a while, and so I wouldn't. It looks very interesting, like kind of like post-apocalyptic, kind of interesting take on stuff. So yeah, interested in it. I can't really make a judgment call on it until we see something, and I'm I'm not hearing anything directly over it. But again, this is one of these things that I wouldn't be surprised because it is kind of flying under the radar. I wouldn't be surprised if it does make a showcase at one of these upcoming at the Game Awards or something like that, because this is something that it looks solid and hoping to get more info on, but it's not really been a much out for that lately.
Yeah, I just had to Google some images to remind myself what this game is, and yeah, there's just not a lot of info out about it right now. See, we talked about Stalker 2. Now, a lot of you have been asking us about Starfield over, not like a whole bunch of questions recently, but people ask us about Starfield quite often, and there's not a ton to say. I don't know if there's anything that you want to share. We're looking into things with Bethesda right now.
There is, yeah. So we mentioned that there's some stuff and some news and some stories going on here and there, and that there's a lot of things in play. Well, let's just kind of say that. What does that mean for Starfield? What is all of the recent craziness with Bethesda? What does that mean for Starfield? I don't think it means much. In the way that some people think. I suspect strongly that most people, especially in the current climate, will be surprised with what comes out. This is Todd's baby, after all. This is his original piece of work that he's spent like decades planning and putting together and waiting for the opportune moment, and it will be a release for the next gen consoles. It's obviously be coming out at the same time for both of them, so we're gonna have to wait until both of them are out. And it looks honestly really interesting. From the rumors and the unofficial pieces of information that have come out, I don't think I like, from what I've heard, I don't think there's any like microtransactions in the game. I could be wrong, because we have been disappointed on that front a few times now with Bethesda. What exactly or where exactly this is coming from, we don't really know. So yeah,
we gotta. There's not a lot concrete we can say.
Mm-hmm.
There's I know, yeah. Gotta be careful with with this info, but anyway, yeah, Starfield is going to be coming out at some point. We know that. All right, and then someone else also asked about Dead Island 2.
A game that was originally supposed to be announced a while ago and apparently got taken back to the drawing board. The company assures, and I've heard from somebody who's assured me that no, this has not been canceled. It's coming out and it's going to be amazing, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff really soon about that. I heard that a couple months ago. I was expecting to see something during the summertime, so I'm not exactly convinced of this project's current standing. I have heard a rumor that this is going to be the next gen, the newest next gen console zombie game. So, to me, what that says is that they want to release this thing right around the new consoles going live, and they want to be the first and official zombie game on that new platform. So, yeah, so that'll be really interesting to see where they go and if they can pull that off. Right now, not positive that they're going to do it successfully, but we'll see. Like it's got a lot. Generally, it's got a lot of support and interest behind it. So hopefully, they manage to pull this off and do so well. So, yeah.
All right. So that's it for the requested topics for today. So there is. I'm actually just scanning to see if there's any new headlines that we have missed or any new news that we should cover? Because we're
Yeah.
right at the 1 hour
Let me
mark,
just.
and this is
I'll address the whole 76 thing. Like, so
okay. Sure.
76. I mean, obviously, it's soured a lot of people to the point where they actually had to try and make a joke about it during their E3 presentation just to get people to, like, not rush the stage and trash everything. I understand that there's a lot of frustration there. I'm very frustrated. I had a lot of hopes for a lot of things, and I'm extraordinarily insulted and upset over the stuff that's gone on. However, it's a big corporation. It's a very big company. It's a very big corporation, and there is a significant amount of other hands in the cookie pot. There's stuff going on that we don't really know about right now. There's a whole lot of info that is not being put out. And you don't get everything because lots of companies they're just simply not that transparent. And Bethesda has never been transparent. ZeniMax has never ever been transparent. They're not even a public company. There's no need for them to be. Now they are surprised. We did talk about how a couple of people that we spoke to felt very depressed and were having issues because they're working at a company that is trashing their own reputation. But why are they trashing their own reputation? Is it just the money thing? Well, we've talked about that. We've talked about how it appears as if they're trying to ready themselves to go public. We know that there's been a big new investor. That's public information. Or publicly reported on information. The details of it are not public, but we know that there was a very, very, very big buyer who put a lot of money into the company and demanded a couple of things from the company. And we've heard reportedly that some of the stuff happens to be what has been going on with 76 and how it was rushed out, all of the content that was put out, all the microtransactions, all those issues, pushing it out before it was ready, all this kind of stuff. And you'd say, well, can't Todd stop that? No, Todd is in charge of the Maryland studio. He's not in charge of the day-to-day at any of the other studios. There's a handful of studios. There's a handful of the studios that are working on projects that he's connected to that he can call up and say, do this, do that. But he was not able to do this, and they removed their hands from 76 a couple months before it got handed over to the other company that then put it out, essentially. So Maryland basically, as far as what I understood, Maryland basically came up with some of the general concepts and fixed the Atlas issue, and then that was it. So what exactly has been going on here, we don't quite know. There's a lot of things that, again, this is a private company, so a lot of this stuff is just hearsay. You just can't know whether or not this information is true because of all of the associated problems with trying to confirm any of it. So basically, you have to look at it and you have to kind of say, well, let's kind of figure things out. Is this really what's going on? And for the most part, you can look at it and say, I think what we're seeing here is not as clear cut that has been reported, and that there's obviously some other things going on here that we don't know about. And no, Todd can't just step forward and talk about it. Pete Hines can't do that because they'd be fired, or they'd be disciplined, or they'd have these other problems. But what they can do is they can let somebody else screw up constantly to the point where the project falls apart, and then they can say, I told you so, now let me do this right. And think about it like this, if you're in Todd's shoes and you say, microtransactions are really crap and everybody really hates them, but everybody else on the council, everybody else on the board of directors really wants this whole microtransaction thing. And what they're doing with the 76 is obviously going to make this thing crash and burn spectacularly, and is just going to trash our reputation. So you got three options really. You can do nothing. You could help try and fix everything and get stuff back on track, or you can let it crash and burn so bad that you can look at the other persons on the board who supported this and say, you guys don't know what you're talking about, leave this to us.
Okay, but I'm going to push back on that just a little bit.
These are hypothetical. I can't stress enough
Yeah.
these are hypothetical.
I get that. It doesn't seem to quite square with some of the public statements Todd has made.
Again, he's the public face of the company, so he's going to be receiving a list of things that he has to say that have been approved by lawyers and that have been approved and written for him to say. Todd is not somebody who speaks off the cuff. He's never spoken off the cuff. He's exaggerated from time to time, and that's landed him in hot water already. So he just can't come out and say what's on the top of his head, because again, it's like, yeah. I get that some people are like, no, I demand that he addresses this in the way that I want to address it. That's never going to happen with any big company. Period. I mean, look at the garbage that we went through with Cyberpunk and CDPR this last week. Oh, there's going to be microtransactions. Actually, I misread it. It wasn't microtransactions. They were talking about monetization, which in the case of what they were actually meaning was, what's the price tag that we're going to put on the game, or is it going to be free, or what's going on there? Completely normal conversation, and you had a whole bunch of people freak out and create lies that they knew were lies, and did so in an attempt to ruin the company. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
So when you're looking at Todd's talking about stuff, yes, he exaggerates. Everybody exaggerates. All of these people exaggerate a lot because, it's what they do. Right? They have to as a company. You can't just walk out on a stage and say whatever is off the top of your head. And the last time somebody tried to do that at EA, I mean, not at EA, at E3, it doesn't always work out well for them. So you're going to have a lot of people telling you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this, you can't say that. If you do, you're going to be disciplined and you're never going to be ending up on the front again. So I'm not saying that this is the case. I'm just pointing out several hypotheticals that I would say that it would be very interesting if the intent was to make sure that they couldn't do this to his baby or to his other most important thing. It's kind of like this. He had to sacrifice something. He's got to sacrifice his new project. He's got to sacrifice Elder Scrolls, or he has to sacrifice Fallout. Which one is he going to do? Like, that's the position that you're in. What are you going to do? You're going to say, some people are going to say, I'm going to tell them no. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't work because you're the boss and you're the head of this company, and your boss and the board members are telling you that you have to pick. So what's his options? And they're not great. None of them are great. So what's he do? Well, he hasn't been really defending it all that much. He spouts his regular garbage, but I mean, this is regular Todd garbage. And some people, they're so offended by this. This is one person that I know who's absolutely, like, you watch his videos and it's just hatred and venom and yeah. Am I upset? Yes. Am I that upset that I'm losing sleep and I'm grinding my teeth at night because I'm so angry at Todd? No. And if that is, I think, just don't buy it. Just turn on this and just say, okay, you know what? I'm just not going to worry about this, because that's you taking on a lot of stress and a lot of anger onto yourself that you don't really need to do. Can you be upset by this? Yes. But the best thing to do is to tell your friends and everybody else, don't buy this game because the microtransactions are absolutely unacceptable. Period. That's all you have to do. And if you could do that reasonably well and communicate that and get as many people as you can to do that, then the company's going to go, ooh, wow, that hurt our wallets. Because they don't listen to rage. I mean, when was the last time that a company listened to actual fans telling them what they actually wanted? I mean, it's a meme now, and how ridiculous it's like. Hey, fans, we heard you guys want this. It's like, no, we don't want that. Well, too bad you're getting it. It's like, okay, no, we really don't want this. Well, too bad. You're gonna take it and you're gonna like it. And if you don't, well, just you wait and see what else we can do. It's absolute garbage. So yeah, the best thing to do is like, and which I encourage everybody, is like, don't buy it. Don't buy it. And if Starfield comes out and it's a single player game without any microtransactions and it's good, then buy that. And that will send the message very clear to ZeniMax, hey, stop doing this. We're not going to support you if you do B, but we're going to support you if you do A, that kind of stuff. And again, I understand that people are really upset by this and they've been really insulted by this. I totally get that and totally understandable. And I agree with you. But some people taking it to the point where they're literally like grinding their teeth and they're losing sleep. It's like, dude, come on, calm down. It's bad, but it's not something that you have to take into yourself in that way. It's like, relax a little bit. Yeah.
All right. There you go. Cyber rant to end the podcast today. Haven't had one of those in a while. It's too bad.
And again, I can't emphasize how much of a disappointment this has been. Some people say they feel robbed. 100% agree. 100% agree. But I don't think this is all Todd's fault, because the last time they were involved in it was in its early alpha phase. The main studio didn't work on this other than fixing the Atlas problem, which, I mean, you can Google if you want to figure that out. They talk about it in the documentary and stuff. It's like, other than that, they played it occasionally, and they were expecting the other studio to get it right. So to me, that says that there's more going on here than we see as just regular players. And some people don't like that, and I understand, but there's nothing you can do about it. So it sucks. I know it sucks, but it sucks. Yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's about as much as I can do. Oh, and a quick just to cap off this other thing. So MechWarrior 5 is an Epic exclusive for a year. And while I'm very excited to play the game, and I'm so very happy that it's being made, again, as far as Epic Store goes, I am not sold on this game. I am definitely not sold on the experience, and I'm definitely not sold on the people running the deal. So, yeah, I'm really excited for it, but it might be one of those things where I'm not playing it until this time next year.
All right.
Which sucks.
It sucks. It's a sacrifice a lot of people are making lately who do not believe in Epic exclusives, and so that's definitely everyone's prerogative to do that. I haven't bought a single game on Epic ever since we played Fortnite, like the Horde version of Fortnite.
Oh, I have to point this out because this is really funny. A bunch of the MechWarrior videos, when they announced that they were going to be in Epic Game Stores, they turned off the comments.
Oh, really?
Because they knew that it would just be an absolute utter gong show. So yeah, some of their videos have been had their comments disabled because they were just picking up too much flack. So
all right, and with that wraps up the podcast for today. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for the great conversation in the chat and for supporting this show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. We really appreciate that. Thank you for being so active in the chat. If you're listening after the fact, leave a comment below. All of those interactions tell YouTube that you appreciate this content. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to get updates when we go live and when we post videos, things like that. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters and channel members who help make this content possible. Our big damn heroes on Patreon, Old Man Manson, and our 2 anonymous supporters. Also, our channel members here on YouTube, Jason Cropper, Mr. Padzernick, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Paul Young, Night City Punk, and Terror K. If you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, or any of the other platforms this podcast goes out to, we appreciate your interactions there as well. And don't forget, you can join the live show on YouTube Wednesday afternoons or Saturday mornings. That's North America time. You can check the Discord server for the exact times and then figure out where it's going live in your part of the world. But then you can interact with us and be a part of the discussion. It's a lot of fun. See the Discord server for the exact times and schedules, as I said, and also join up there for tons of great conversations. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cybsidian, thank you all so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.